You know what code snippets are. They're short pieces of text that you can write in any IDE, and then if you press Tab or the Enter key, it blows up into a larger piece of text. Also notice that a few pieces of text have a selection, and those are called tab stops. Right now the first tab stop is int in this case, which means if I start typing anything, that'll replace the int. And they're meant for you to replace them if you want. And if I press tab, it goes to the next tab stop, and I might want to replace that. And then notice there's also a light gray cursor at the end of this line. That's called the current cursor of the code snippet. So code snippets also have a current cursor location, which is when you're through with all the tab stops, if you press the tab key again, that's where the cursor jumps to. In this video, let's learn how to create code snippets for the IDE Visual Studio Code. For this video, I'm going to create a demo folder and open Visual Studio Code in that folder. To create a code snippet, go to File, Preferences, User Snippets. Look at the first two options, New Global Snippets File and New Snippets File for Demo. The first option, New Global Snippets File, will create code snippets that will apply to any folder you open in Visual Studio Code. Notice the extension of the file name is code-snippets, but it's actually just a JSON file. Let's just call it something, demo. This is a comment that explains how you type the JSON entry that represents your code snippet. But that's exactly what I'm going to explain in this video, so I will delete this for now. You can read it in your own time. This is the location where the global snippets are stored. That's the roaming folder for the currently logged in user /code/user/snippets. And that's the name of our file. Now, you can write code snippets for any programming language in this file. However, you might want to segregate or separate code snippets on a programming language basis. For that, you don't create this file. You go back to the File menu, Preferences, User Snippets, and from within this drop-down, choose a specific programming language that you want to create snippets for. Say, for example, I choose C#. I'll create a file called c#.json. If I want to write C++ snippets, I can choose CPP. If there is a language that's not within this menu, then you want to Google VS Code language identifiers. And these are the language identifiers that you can name your file according to. I'm going to start with a very stupid snippet that's not specific to any programming language. It would just allow the user to type in something like test, and it would blow up into, let me comment this because this is not the code for writing the snippet, and it would blow up to, let's say, 3 lines, 1, 2, and 3. To do that, we create a new object in this file. And since an object must have a name or a key, we'll give it a key. The key usually will be a sensible name, but for this example, I'll make a concession for that rule. Let's just call our new snippet foo. There are basically 2 properties that are important to create a snippet. One is, what's the short piece of text that the user will have to type in order to execute the snippet? And that's denoted by a property named prefix. Let's say I want the user to type test. And the second only important property is what text should this snippet generate? And that's indicated by the property named body. So now the body is an array. It's an array of strings where each element is a string that represents each line of code that will be generated. So if I want to generate 3 lines, 1, 2, and 3, I'll provide 3 strings, as the 3 elements of this array. That's basically it. However, it's always a good idea and it's courteous to provide a description to your users as to what the snippet does, so there's also an optional property name description. That's basically it. Now this snippet will work in any kind of file. So let's open a text file, and in this file I'll type T, and you see that our snippet shows up, and if I press the tab or enter key, it blows up into these 3 lines. You'll also notice that it shows us the description that we entered. Let me open another kind of file. Let's just say program.cs, which is a C# file, and I'll type T again, and our snippet shows up. And if I go to another folder, our snippet shows up here as well. Now let's create something more meaningful. Let's create a code snippet that also has tab stops and a current cursor position. And this time, we'll create a snippet that works only in the demo folder that we're working in. This time I'll go to File, Preferences, User Snippets, and I'll choose the second option, New Snippets File for Demo. And that'll create a new code snippets file, which is a JSON file, in the folder .vscode within the current folder demo. I'd like to have the code snippet generate a simple C# console application with a main method that already has a console write-line statement printing hello world, and it has a second console write-line statement with the current cursor position set there. Also, I'd like to make a few tab stops. The user, for instance, might want to change the namespace, so that'll be my first tab stop. He may also want to change the name of the class. Let's say he may also want to change this string that's printed out, so I'll make this the third tab stop just for practice sake. And finally, the current cursor position would be this one. I've named our snippet console-app. I'd like the user to type in just the word console for the prefix. I've provided a description, and as for the body, for now, I'll go to the output that I want generated from this code snippet. I'll copy it as it is and create string entries for each line in this array. Since we have double quotes within the string, we'll need to escape them. Even though this doesn't have any tab stops or cursor positions as of now, I'm guessing it should work as it is. Let's give it a try. Right off the bat, I noticed that the new line I wanted here is missing. Also is missing the indentation. Let's go and fix that. To fix that, I'll simply add a new line everywhere I want a blank line. I could also add a new line by removing this and simply adding the special new line character at the end of the previous line, or an easier way is simply to add a new line. To fix the indentation, I need to add tabs. With these edits, let's see how our code snippet works. Much better. We've got the indentation and the new lines. Now I want to add tab stops and the current cursor position. The current cursor position is denoted by a special character $0. Since I want the current cursor position over here, I'll just add $0. Let's go back and try it out. And you'll see that the cursor ends up exactly where we want it to. Now let's add the tab stops. Adding a tab stop is also easy. To insert a tab stop, locate the piece of text that you want to make a tab stop. Start with the $sign, open curlies, and add a number representing the order of the tab. Tab orders start from 1. Since I want this to be the first tab stop, I'll type 1, a full colon, and I'll close these braces. Similarly, I want this to be the second tab, and I want this to be the third tab stop. That's about it. Let's go and try it. And we have our tab stops. I could type something here. I tab, I get to the second tab stop, and the third tab stop, and I tab again and I get to the current cursor position. Let me try one last thing. Oftentimes, you want to have more than one reference to a single tab stop. For example, if over here I wanted, let me add another console.writeLine statement, printing out the type name of this class. Now, since I want to have a tab stop for program, I also want a tab stop over here so that if someone changes the name of the program, I want this also to change automatically. To do that, I'll add a new line here. You add a $sign and add the same ordinal or the tab order as the previous reference, and then you can add a different piece of text here for the placeholder, but since I want this to be the same, I'll just type program again. Let's give this a try. This time, if I tab to the My Program and change it to something else, you'll see that both of them change simultaneously. There's one last thing I should mention here. We haven't restricted that this code snippet be available only for C# programs. So if I created a new text file here, our code snippet would be available for any kind of file. To restrict the code snippet to be available only for C# files, we go to the code snippet definition and add a new property named scope. This accepts any of the language identifiers that we saw earlier. Since I want this to be restricted to C#, I'll type C#. Now if I go to C# file, my code snippet is still accessible. But if I go to foo.txt, I don't see my code snippet. There's more to creating code snippets, but I hope this was enough to get you started. And this is about all the features you'll use 80% of the time. I've been programming for 21 years. Starting with VB5 in 1997, I moved to C# in 2004. Since then, I've designed and developed all manner of architectures and applications on the Microsoft platform. I'm a really good developer and an architect. I can help your team by training and mentoring your team to help you deliver great products and projects for your clients. To hire me, please reach me at satyaish@gmail.com. I live in Noida, India, and I'm looking for work that allows me to stay in Noida itself, so either local or something remote.